Today, we are going to dive into why you just can't trust South Florida media when it comes to the X's and O's. I'm not talking about ESPN. They're in Connecticut. All right, I'm not talking about the NFL Network. They're in New York. I'm talking specifically about the South Florida media, and specifically when it comes to the X's and O's of football. We'll talk about that today and much more. Do me the favor, smash the like button. Subscribe if you are new. And as always, let's get into this one.
Loses the football. Touchdown! You have got to be kidding me. Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score. Field on the near side, man open. Touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. He's going over the touchdown again.
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go! Starting things off a little different today. I got news that one of the day one supporters of myself and this channel, someone who became my friend through this community, all of you who have been around for quite some time, you'll remember all the times he used to come up on the panels, Todd Lobrutto, he passed away. He passed away in his sleep. I got the news today. I'm not going to lie, I shed a few tears when I was writing my X post about him. We became friends, on stage, up on screen discussions for, all the viewers, backstage discussions, email correspondence. He was someone who supported me and EM Dolphin fan when we started Phinside the NFL from day one. And just over a little over a week ago, he popped up in the chat. And for all of you who are watching that episode, you'll remember I shouted him out and I said, "Hey Todd, how you doing? It's been a minute. I hope you're good." And I didn't know that would be the last time that I was able to shout out Todd in my chat. Todd had a kind heart, cared so much about his grandkids. He was just a good man. Listen, you're walking with God now. I hope he's got your wings on standby. Rest in power and fins up, Todd. Yeah, just absolutely terrible news. I wanted to take time out and take some moments out and dedicate some of the show and this whole show. This whole show is dedicated to Todd because I know he loved the energy and I know he's going to love what I'm going to talk about and the rant I'm going to go on today. Todd loved that stuff. He was a diehard Dolphin fan through and through. He loved this team, and it's tough knowing that you're never going to talk to someone again who, you held in high esteem. So, prayers up to Todd and his family. I can't imagine what they're going through right now. So, tough stuff. Yeah, I just wanted to take some time out, and if anyone deserved the first 5 minutes of the show, it was Todd. So, gonna miss you, bud. Sucks knowing that my email's I'm never gonna see you in my email again. I'm never going to see you in the live chat. I'm never going to talk to you backstage again. You're a real one, bud. Gonna miss you, bud. Gonna miss you, bud. Anyways, that's a tough one. So I just hope you found peace, bro. I really do. Anyways, a couple days ago, in case you guys did not get a chance to see, the pocket quarterback is still alive and well in the NFL. Haven't had a chance to talk about it with you guys yet. Happened Friday night. Brock Purdy got his new deal. Brock Purdy now making about $53 million a year on average. So he's right there with Jared Goff and Tua Tagovailoa, between Burrow, Goff, Purdy, and Tua getting paid there. You're talking about four of the 8 highest salaries in the NFL right now. The pocket quarterback is alive and well. All these people, it's crazy. It's crazy how everyone tried to spit the narrative that, the pocket quarterback is dead. It's, no longer, it's a mobile man's game now. And 4 of the top 8 paid quarterbacks are pocket quarterbacks. Does Burrow have some ability to him? Sure. Does Purdy have some ability to him? Sure. Does Tua have a little wiggle to him? Not as much as Burrow or Purdy, but sure. Okay. Goff is probably the most stationary guy out of all of them. Let's be honest here, right? So, hey, and it's crazy. Purdy comes in at 53. Purdy's done what he's done in, just a short amount of time, going from Mr. Irrelevant to this big of a deal. Well, Dak Prescott's still sitting here, with the highest annual average salary of $60 million per year. And what has Dak Prescott done? Right? Kind of crazy. So, yeah, Brock Purdy, he got his 5-year, $265 million contract extension. About $181 million of that guaranteed. That's a big chunk of money. That's actually more than what Tua got guaranteed. Tua got about $167.171 million guaranteed, and that's what really matters, right? The guarantees are what really matter the most when you're looking at these contracts. So he got about, you do the math, he got about, almost 15 million more guaranteed than Tua Tagovailoa. That's what matters, because the guaranteed money is the real money. The annual average is just to look pretty, so you can tell your buddies, and everyone outside of your fan base, hey, you got the highest paid quarterback or one of the highest paid quarterbacks. It really always comes down to the actual guaranteed money on tap. And Brock Purdy, man, still ain't no one about to pass that Watson guaranteed money, huh? Ain't no one about to pass that $230 million guaranteed yet. Still about $50 million off from that, if you do the math. So that's crazy. Like, when you look at what, you can even say Tua. Like, let's not even use Purdy because he's gone to Super Bowls. Let's use Tua. Tua's led the league in passing yards, passing percentage, passer percentage, passer rating, et cetera, et cetera. He's got like actual league leading accolades at the position. Deshaun Watson ain't done anything in years, and look at the kind of money he's making. That's crazy. Like, that's kind of nuts. When you look at the guaranteed aspect of it. I mean, I guess you could have that conversation a little bit with, Herbert, but, with Herbert, at least he won Rookie of the Year, I guess. But Herbert got $218.7 million guaranteed. Think about that one. They gave Justin Herbert $218.7 million guaranteed. Like, that's crazy. Like, that is nuts. You know, at least when Burrow got his $219 million guaranteed, he had been to a Super Bowl, right? So, and I think we can all agree Burrow is better than Herbert. You know, I think we can all basically pretty much come to agreement on that and hold hands and sing Kumbaya to that fact that Burrow is better. So, you know, yeah, you're technically right, Lord Duke. Lord Duke, hit it pretty much spot on with what he said. He's dead on. Uno was the number one. He was a dual threat considered coming out, right? But then we learned in high school he wasn't quite the athlete, and then the hip injury took away that athleticism and that extra wiggle he had. That hip injury basically took that away. Remember, after that injury, he basically said, I'm never going to be the same athlete. And he had to become even a more of a pocket quarterback. Because, remember, the year before he had that hip injury, he had that, 50-yard, 40 or 50-yard touchdown run against LSU. Honestly, Jim, I know this is probably a hot take. I think if Harbaugh would have had the chance and would have had the blessing, he would have tried to draft. If he would have had the chance to draft him and then he would have had the blessing from the front office, I think Harbaugh would have went after J.J. McCarthy last year. I'm just saying. I really honestly think he would have went after J.J. McCarthy. I honestly believe that. Because I think he wants a certain type of quarterback to manage the game the way he wants it to be managed, and he trusts him already. Right? So I think he would have, and I think they would have tried to trade off Herbert. I know that's a hot take, but I really honestly think he would have done that. So I don't know. I think Herbert's got a shorter leash than anyone wants to talk about in terms of if Harbaugh doesn't win with him by a certain period of time, it's going to be bye-bye, Herbie. You're not my guy. Yeah, you got all the traits, but you're not my guy. Because, let's be honest here. He's never been a winner. I remember people trying to stretch and give Herbert credit. Let me just double check. I'm pretty sure it was Utah. I'm pretty sure it was Utah. I'm almost positive. Yeah, was it Utah? Yeah, it was Utah. Yeah. I remember they beat him 37-15, right? When they won the Pac-12 title. I'm pretty sure that was in 2019. That was December 2019. All right. And I remember that game. Everyone was like, oh my God, Justin Herbert. The guy was 14 of 26 for one touchdown. And then he had 7 carries for 20 yards. It was CJ Verdell had 18 carries for 208 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's why they won. Herbert wasn't even good, but because the Utah Utes had, they were the 5th ranked team at the time because their defense was really good. I remember this. And everyone was like, oh my God, Herbert. And I was like, bro, did you watch the game? The guy did nothing in that game. What are we talking about? All right? He did nothing. And then, he was not the reason why Oregon won. It was clearly CJ Verdell in that defense. And he got so much credit for it. And I was like, this is ludicrous. And then, I'm going to be honest with you. Was I surprised the team blew that big of a lead to Jacksonville a couple years ago? Sure. Was I surprised that Herbert lost a playoff game after having a lead? No. If you actually watch this kid in college, he wasn't a very big winner. And he kind of was like Shador and what's his face? Ewers, in the sense of really big hype heading into his final year of college, and it looked like he plateaued. That was the problem with Herbert. That was what made me struggle with my evaluation with Herbert and why he was my 4th quarterback in that class. He didn't get better every year, right? Jordan Love got better every year, even in this final year where, yeah, he threw more interceptions, but you got to understand the context of the team around him. Oregon was stacked. Herbert had the best line in the country, right? Remember, Panini was there. That line was stacked, right? Shane Lemieux was in the middle. I mean, that was a really good line. You know, it was that Alabama and LSU were the best lines in college. And I would argue that Oregon was the best line, right? Look at, right? Let's be honest here. It feels like more dominant NFL starters came from that Oregon line than it did from Alabama's line and LSU's line at the time. Right? You know, and we can start with the name Penei Sewell and end it there because no tackle on either team, LSU or Alabama at the time, lived up to Penei. So I just remember that being like, yeah. And then after seeing, you know, Jaden Daniels as a freshman outduel Herbert, man, there were signs. There were signs when you watch the film early on. Like, yeah, the traits were crazy. I remember one of my quotes in my scouting report of him was, when the footwork is, you know, flawless, when the mechanics are on point, he makes some breathtaking throws. And you saw it on film. But man, those mechanics out of the shotgun, the footwork, you know, he'd do this thing with the ball where he'd snap it and he'd like flip it to himself. And it was like, what are you doing, bro? Like, you know, there was stuff you saw that was just like, you know, you're not good enough of a processor to be flipping the ball and taking extra time to focus on the ball and flipping it back to you to get the laces right, dude. Like, what are you saying? You know, like there were certain things you could see where you're like, yo, man, I don't know what this guy. But he worked on it. He came to the Senior Bowl. Because remember, you know, kind of like Jackson Dart, Herbert had never taken a snap under center in college, right? And this is how I knew about Tyler Shuck, because Tyler Shuck was the next up at Oregon, right, when Herbert left. So, but then he got hurt. But, yeah, pocket quarterback is not dead, my friends. Not dead by any stretch of the imagination. Lord Duke kind of nailed it. Herbert is the West Coast version of the guy in Jacksonville. They both just have the look. I'll say it. You know, 6'5", blonde hair, blue eyes, prototypical size with some athletic traits and big arms. But I will say this, Herbert's far better than Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence looked like he plateaued as like a sophomore in Clemson and honestly hasn't looked like he's gotten better. I remember when I was talking about I wanted Burrow, Tua, or Love in that 2020 draft, and there were people who said if you can't get Burrow, just wait till next year and get Trevor Lawrence. And I remember me and EM telling them all the time, yo, and it was a hot take back then. I was telling them Trevor Lawrence is not all that. I'm telling you right now, he is not going to be the savior y'all think he is. Sorry. And here we go. It is what it is, right? So now I do want to get into something here. Let's, you know, I get told all the time, hey, Reason, you know, I watch Kyle Krabs, you know, I watch, you know, Ryder, Dudley, whomever the case may be is, you know, the fact of the matter is they watch these social media personalities on YouTube, you know, on Twitter, and they say, you know, we tune ESPN out for you. You know, we like you guys better than what the South Florida media does. And, you know, let's kick it $150 here right now. Okay. And you guys have seen me, whether I've had Omar up here, whether I've been up on a panel with Poopar, you know, I stand 10 toes down, and anything I say to all you, I'll say directly to them, and I got no problem. Okay. If you guys would have saw me at training camp last year, I went directly up to each one of these guys. You know, a few of them, I had heard there was rumors of them having issues with me, and I brought it to their doorstep right at training camp because I am the same person on screen that I am in person. Same, you know, I don't, you know, I'm naturally loud, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I'm the same person, okay? I don't put on a facade. I don't act like I'm something I'm not, which we see other YouTube personalities, Twitter personalities, Instagram personalities, and quite frankly, South Florida journalists consistently do, acting like there's something they're not, okay? So this is nothing I won't say directly to them, all right? You know, I just heard some really bad takes throughout the draft season to getting to where we are now. They continue to stack up. And an article came out that kind of pushed me over the top. And I was like, yo, man, okay, well, obviously I got to address this. Obviously, we got to have a discussion about this. All right. And there's a reason why. Okay. Fans of this team have come to people like me, Kyle, etc., all these people I've mentioned, because they trust us with the information. All right. They know when it comes to the X's and O's of football, you can put us in a film room. You can put us in front of a chalkboard. Okay. We're going to show you something. You'll learn something. You go put any one of these writers. And again, I'm not talking about ESPN. I'm not talking about the NFL Network. Those are different conglomerates. I'm talking about the specific locked in South Florida media. All right. You put them in front of them, they won't know what's going on. You put them in the film room or the chalkboard. And I'll be real with you. The only one who I would trust to put in front of a chalkboard or put in a film room, he's covering the Cleveland Browns now. And that was Daniel Oifusi. All right. Daniel Oifusi, hands down, was the one who proved himself to be the best one of these South Florida people and writers covering film. All right. I'm not even including Barry Jackson in this situation. Barry Jackson, leave him out. He knows what he is. He stays in his lane. He's an insider. He doesn't come out here and act like he's some football aficionado. Okay. Doesn't do that. So I'm not even including Barry. So you can leave ESPN, NFL Network, and Barry out of here. All right. Hell, you could even leave David Feronas out of this if you want to, because he doesn't come out here and act like he's some, football guru. And the reality of the situation is here. Let's keep it $150. Okay. If these South Florida journalists didn't have access to the team, what good would they be to you guys? Be real here. If they did not have access, direct access to the locker room, direct access to these interviews, to these press conferences, what good would they be to you? None of y'all trust them to tell you anything when it comes to the actual game of football. None of y'all trust their evaluations, whether it be on a current player or a prospect. They'll have the audacity to come at people on social media who aggregate the news they put out, but then they'll become echo chambers in draft season and in March start acting like they know what they're talking about, when really all they're becoming is echo chambers for other people who do know what they're talking about. And then even still, they prove they don't know what they're talking about even when they try to be echo chambers. So let's get into this, because I'm going to read this article and then we're going to go further into this situation. All right? Because I got a lot to talk about here. All right? And we're going to lay it out. And I'm going to show you the article that kind of sent me over it. It was titled on Twitter, Dolphins add physical offensive linemen, but that's not what's needed most. And I was like, what are we about to get into right here? So this article from Chris Perkins. All right. I listened when Miami Dolphins center Aaron Brewer speaks. Brewer is a grown man. He's no nonsense. Brewer broke it down Wednesday when asked about newly added guards James Daniels, the 327-pound veteran from Pittsburgh, and Jonas Savaiinaea, the 336-pound second-round pick from Arizona. They got some more weight, Brewer said of Daniels and Savaiinaea. But, this Miami offense, we're moving. All right? You're in this heat out here in South Florida. You've still got to be able to move. Listening to Brewer tells you that the Dolphins still plan on utilizing their offensive linemen's finesse, mobility, agility, not just aggression and physicality. It's the same game plan they've used for the previous 3 seasons. Yeah, it's called a fucking scheme, Perk. Nothing is changing for the offensive line. I love that they got some, already. You're like, what are we going here? It's called the scheme we run, bro. Oh my God. Do I gotta show you what we run? Anyways, I love that they got some weight on them, Brewer continued, but they're not just a stationary big old guy, old school offensive lineman. We're here, we're moving, everything is fast. It's a different type of offense. If you hear what Brewer's saying, you realize that the Dolphins still don't necessarily want offensive linemen who specialize in muscle and physicality. The Dolphins still prioritize nimble offensive linemen over aggressive offensive linemen, and they always will in this outside zone run scheme. And this is like, this quote is just a flat out lie. This quote's just a flat out lie. What have I talked about? I've said that they want to add guys who are what? Who, yes, are athletic, but are also mean, powerful, and can move. What are you talking about? This is why they added James Daniels and Savaiinaia. Like, your whole argument went out the window in the first 3 minutes of your article. Why do you think they added those guys that can move that way? Because they're physical. Because they don't want to be soft in the trenches. Because Liam Eichenberg doesn't have an anchor and power. Because Jones had the power and the anchor, but he couldn't move. So what did they realize? We need the power and the anchor, but you need to be able to move. You need to have good feet. They're literally learning from what they just saw with Eichenberg and Jones, and I'll do you one better. It's because they saw what worked on the interior in 2023 when you same South Florida reporters were taking subliminal shots at people like me. Well, me, because I was the first one out and I was arguing with y'all. I told all y'all he'd be left guard, but y'all wanted to speak in absolutes, and you were telling the fan base he was going to be the right tackle, and once again you ended up being wrong. Because y'all don't know how to project off film, y'all don't know how to evaluate film, y'all don't know how to properly evaluate players. Y'all look up PFF grades and come to your conclusions. Let's be real here. Okay? Let's keep it $150. All right? So, like, what are we talking about here? This is absolutely ludicrous. And, like, do we even need to go on in that article? Lots of fans and media members make a big deal about Daniels and Savaiinaia weighing 300 plus pounds. Bulk isn't the point. Brew, the 5-year veteran and second-year Dolphins player, unintentionally got to the point about Daniels and Savaiinaia. Brewer, without meaning to do it, downplayed the aggression and emphasized the spryness. That's important to note, is it? It's more important to note the key to this whole attitude, physicality, aggression thing for the offensive line is Coach Mike McDaniel. He's the one that must call aggressive plays, the type that allows the Dolphins to maintain an aggressively mentality and demeanor, but don't count on it. Okay, and like, I'm going to cut you off right there. Buddy, you can set that tone through the run game. I would love Perk to come in front of a whiteboard, show me what an aggressive play is. Break it down for me what an aggressive play is. What are you talking about? You can set that physical tone with running the ball. You don't need, buddy, I can set the tone with a screen. If I get Austin Jackson and Savaiinaia out in open space in front of Achane and they lay some bodies out, what am I doing? I'm being physical, I'm being aggressive, and I'm setting a tone. Like, what are we talking about here? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, this is why we can't trust you guys. Because you're acting like the scheme needs to change for this to work. Oh, what do we gotta be more inside, inside zone and gap to all of a sudden be seen as aggressive? Give me a break. You can be aggressive in outside zone. What are you talking about? Like, McDaniel doesn't call plays with aggressive shove him off the line mentality. McDaniel didn't do it in 2023. Oh, so you want drive blocking. McDaniel didn't do it in 2023. His offensive line featured 310-pound center Connor Williams, 320-pound right guard Robert Hunt, and 315-pound tackle Austin Jackson, all who were capable of firing off the line of scrimmage and moving their opponent backward. Again, this scheme. Chris Perkins, this scheme. What are you talking about? This isn't an inside zone or gap power offense. How is this even an issue? To say you can't be aggressive or physical in an outside zone is ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. Like, it's nuts. And then look at what he says. Typically, the Dolphins don't want road graders as offensive linemen. Listen to Dolphins general manager Chris Grier talk about what they want from offensive linemen. You look for guys that are tough and competitive. They have to be smart, obviously, but in the scheme, as you guys have seen, athletes are kind of the priority. So you want guys who are athletic, have twitch, and come off the ball. We discussed this many times. The Dolphins are still employing 7-on-7 principles in tackle football. The Dolphins need a more physical offensive style, from philosophy to play calling to execution. It makes no sense to have bulky physical offensive linemen clearing the way for a 188-pound running back. That's not being committed to a style. That's half-stepping style. And it makes no sense to have a powerful running back if you don't use him 15 or 20 times a game many times on inside runs. That seems unlikely considering the Dolphins hired a senior pass game coordinator, Slowick, instead of a senior run game coordinator. Think about it. Does senior pass game coordinator equate to an aggressive offensive line use? Do you see what's going on here still? This change of physicality has to be made on a fundamental level. The Dolphins just can't acquire a couple of 300-pounders and expect their offensive line issues to be solved. Physicality, mostly through the run game, must become part of how the Dolphins win. As it is, the run game amasses hollow yards. You know the number. The Dolphins are only 8-11 in the past 2 years when they rush for more than 100 yards, including 2-6 last season. That's way beyond an offensive line issue. Of course, I'm not one of those who blames the Dolphins' biggest offensive issues on the offensive line. I put the blame for the biggest offensive issues at the top of the food chain on McDaniel, quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, and wide receivers Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And I put the blame for the Dolphins' offensive line woes on Grier and McDaniel. Of course, I also think the offensive line woes have been way overblown, and why not? It distracts from the reality, which is that the offense has been figured out for the past few years. Get the ball to Tyreek, or to threaten to get the ball to Tyreek, and it needs to get a strategic, philosophical tweak change. I think the offensive line has had the right mentality. I think the offensive line has and had the right physical tools. The question is, through strategy, philosophy, and play calling, the offensive line, Special Daniels and Savaianaya, will be able to put that mentality and physicality on display. To this point, it doesn't seem that would be the case. Again, go put on the Denver Broncos game. Like, what are we talking about right now? Right? Like, go put on the Broncos Dolphins from 2023. All right, when we beat them 70-20. Right? What happened? Right? Let's be honest here. We had our fully offensive line. All right? You had Isaiah Wynn, who could move but was nasty and powerful on the inside. You had Connor Williams, who could move but had some power to him on the inside. And you had Robert Hunt, who, remember, contrary to what Perkins says, they usually don't look for road graders. When we drafted Hunt, what was he in? We were a power gap man running team. So he actually made the transition, as did Austin Jackson. And why were they able to make the transition? Because they had a little bit of athleticism. But Robert Hunt was a nasty individual on the interior. I mean, he displayed his power last year plenty of times for the Panthers, and he made the Pro Bowl. And he was technically a road grader coming out of the Sun Belt. They drafted Solomon Kinley, who was a road grader, but even in a power and a man scheme, he couldn't fit because he didn't take care of his body. And I think, you go back to that Dolphins-Broncos game, they ran the ball for 43 times for 350 yards. That's not physical? That's not setting a physical tone? Running the ball 43 times for 350 yards? That's not physical? Devon Achane, 18 carries for 203 yards, but you want to knock what the 188-pound running back can do behind a fully healthy offensive line? Listen, do I agree with Chris Perkins that McDaniel, Tua, and Tyreek deserve blame 110%? I've said this before. That might have been the only right thing he said in the whole article. But this guy sits here and says the offensive line has had the right physical tools. Hey, Chris, I got a video for you to go check out. I did it at the start, right before the season started yesterday, and I broke down to everyone why Eichenberg and Robert Jones were not going to fit on our interior that season. Lo and below, what happened? The running game tanked. Did Tua get hurt behind that offensive line? No, but Skyler did. The running game tanked. The offensive line was trash. And it started with the interior. Even Aaron Brewer, who started off good, eventually plateaued out because he could only do so much with a jabroni on each side of him. You know? Again, go watch the film, but oh yeah, I can't. Because then you got the South Florida mean, and now I see the new one is this. The new one is this. Oh, we need to sign Xavier Howard. And I'll call him out. Omar Kelly, I've called him out to his face when we did the Cover 4 podcast. Okay? Every week you come up here and talk about how much they love Julian Hill. Every week I would counter him and say they need to add someone after the catch at that position. Tight end is the next step in this offense. A few months later, interview comes out with McDaniel. His exact quote, tight end's the next evolution of this offense. I'm sitting back doing the Birdman hand rub because I'm like, I'm going to be right. They go sign Jonnu Smith. Boom, I'm right again. All right? Omar tried to make a big deal about Chop a couple weeks ago and last offseason. Took him out behind the woodshed on X. Fact of the matter is this. But now, the new thing, and I've seen a few people pushing this, is signing Xavier Howard. Are you ludicrous? Like, what are we talking about here? Xavier Howard's been out of the league for over a year. Deshaun Watson is younger. He was out of the league for over a year, and what is that game translated to? You know, not everyone is Mike Vick, where they can be out of the league for 2 years in jail, come back and grow and develop their game. Mike Vick was also in his 20s when he came back, I believe. Xavier Howard right now, like the fact that, and this is another reason why you can't trust them, they're suggesting this to you. They're suggesting to bring back a guy who's going to be 32 in July in 2 months, who in his last 2 years here, we saw the lower extremity issues were stacking up from the groin down. He was clearly losing the step. He couldn't travel with guys anymore. Right? Oh, yeah, by the way, he was sending explicit photos of a woman to her child as a form of revenge while he's married, by the way. You want to bring that back? Are you crazy? Have you not seen what they're trying to do? They want Ramsey and they want Tyreek gone. They're trying to flip that culture around. You want to bring back Tyreek 2.0 because Xavier Howard is just as big of an animal on the South Florida streets as Tyreek Hill is. Let's be real here. Okay? And you want to bring that back into that locker room? Are you nuts? What are we talking about here? But they're trying to convince you guys and trying to get you on board with that idea. That's insane. That's a waste of money. You'll be better off signing Rasul Douglas. That's terrible. I'd rather kick Kohu out to the boundary and see what we got with these kids and duck and stuff. What are we saying? Xavier Howard is not 26 years old anymore, okay? I don't know. And the guys, if Xavier Howard is so good, why did he try out for multiple teams last year and no one took a flyer on him? I'll tell you what no one wants to say. He's pretty much blackballed for sending those pictures of that woman to her child in a form of revenge. Teams aren't going to touch that, man. That's basically sending PORN to a minor. You think people are going to touch that? Are you crazy? That's a loose cannon if he's going to do stuff like that. You want that? Nah, man. Because remember, did it really pay off by them looking out for him and re-upping that contract after they had just signed him? Not really. And it's not like he's a leader. You know, it's not like this is Rashad Jones, baby. That guy was a leader. All right? Like, again, You know, and I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of these guys, they know where the periods and the commas go more than they know ball. You know, I'm going to be honest with you, man. The Sun Sentinel, Palm Beach Post, some of the Miami Herald. Aside from Barry Jackson, Barry Jackson is the person I respect the most in the South Florida media, and I've always said this. You know, but the majority of them are about as useful as pissing in the wind. Let's be real here. You know, again, some of these guys will tell you, send me your mock drafts. Like there's some kind of draft aficionados when they only start talking about the draft in March. But then a guy like Omar will go out and argue with everyone that, oh, Kenneth Grant will be there at 48 because his mock draft had Kenneth Grant followed him at 48. You know, and Omar again, and next time I'm with Omar, I'll call him out directly to this. Someone asked him, who do you want at 13? You know who he said? He said Will Johnson, he said Ashton Jeanty, and he said Alfred Collins. Okay? And then, and I'll call him out on this. You pigeonhole, and a couple of them do this. They pigeonhole Kenneth Grant as a nose tackle. Tell me you don't know how to project a player and you don't know how to properly watch his film without telling me you don't know how to project a player or properly watch his film. Okay? That is a version of stat and box score watching. You are sitting there looking at his size and his weight and pigeonholing him. Watch the film. Watch the athleticism. This guy's lining up all the way out to 4-eye and making plays. All right? That when he hunted down, all right, when he hunted down that Penn State running back, all right, he wasn't a nose on that play. He was over a guard. Like, again, what are we talking about? But they'll try and tell all of you, yeah, we know what we're talking about. Listen to us. Come on, man. Stop. Stop. It's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And I'm here to call it out. I'm tired of it. This draft, and you know, I'll call Poupart out too. I call Poupart out directly to his face over Herbert when we had that panel a while back. I'll tell him right now. I've heard Poupart come up here and say, oh, if Tate Rowledge is good, whoa, that's a wasted pick. You could have just sat there and then, you know, got something at 98. Again, someone who hasn't watched any of these prospects, someone who doesn't know how to evaluate or project any of these prospects, but he wants to come out and make a take like that. Stop. All right? Stop. Sit back and watch the show, okay? There's a reason why people don't come to Poupart to increase their knowledge for football. It's stuff like that. All right? Joe Shad. All right? Joe Shad, rookie minicamp. Go watch all the interviews go back and watch the interviews. You'll hear Joe Shad to every single rookie they interviewed. You know what question he asked? Are you going to buy a house by the beach or no? That was the question you're asking these rookies. Are you going to live on the beachfront? That's your first interaction with them. You can ask about their whole college career, their NFL goals, how they feel about being minicamper, how they fit in the scheme, anything like that. But you ask if they're going to buy a beachfront property. That's the type of questions we get. All right? Stop right now. And then everyone's blown away when the team goes to England. And shout out to the guys at 3 yards per carry because they're good at what they do. And you got someone who actually knows ball. Simon Clancy asked a question. And everyone goes out of their minds because someone else asked a Travis Wingfield level question. You know why? Because it's evident. Ask him about beachfront. Like, this is like, come on, man. Again, knowing where to put the periods and the commas. When it comes to knowing football, not so much. Just because you cover it doesn't mean you know it. And doesn't mean you know the intricacies of the game. Stop this right now. And you know what? That's real talk, man. That is 110% realist SHIT Aaron Andrews ever wrote in this chat. Like, oh, buddy, it's on the table. Oh, don't worry. It's on the table, brother. And I'm going to tell you this one thing. These guys don't want me to move to South Florida because then I'll really have them by the shorts and curls. And I know how I'm viewed. Listen, I have friends with some of these people. I have friends that are mutual friends with some of these people. I'll tell you right now, I know, and I've been told a few of these people you would view as big names, view people like me, Kyle, the 3 yards per carry guys, they flat out view us as threats and competition. Why do you think they've come to YouTube? Straight up. Because they saw that's where everyone was going. That's where all the credibility was going. That's where the fans were funneling to. And they thought they could, and they said, okay, let's go tap into that. That's exactly it. It's called a spade, man. It is what it is. Why do you think all of a sudden they popped up on YouTube over the last 2 years? All right? But I'm here to tell you, put me in a film room, put me in front of a chalkboard, put Kyle in the film room, put Kyle in a chalkboard, put Ryder in a film room, put Ryder in front of a chalkboard, put the 3 yards per carry guys in a film room or in front of a chalkboard, and everyone will see firsthand that they couldn't even, hold our jock strap when it comes to this football-ish. And that's real talk. All right? And I saw so many bad takes during the draft. The one thing that bugs me, and I see the South Florida media does it too, stop acting like you're something you're not. Stop acting like you're draft gurus. Stop acting like you know football when our fans, all they have to do is click onto YouTube and find a few of us, and then it really puts it in their perspective of how much you guys don't really actually know. And like I said earlier, if it wasn't for the access to the locker rooms, what would these publications really offer you guys? The only thing that would be really offered to you is Barry Jackson, because he's plugged into every franchise and he's the best insider in South Florida and has been. And the thing I respect about Barry Jackson the most is he knows what he is and he doesn't try to act like he's something he's not. So shout out to Barry Jackson. He's the one. Shout out to ESPN. Shout out to NFL Network, Cam Wolf, etc. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about Sun Sentinel, the Herald, and the Palm Beach Post, those South Florida publications. All right? That's it. All we need you guys for is your access. Give us your reports on training camp, right? Give us your reports on what you're hearing in the locker room. That's it. We only need the boots on the ground reports. Other than that, don't worry. The rest of us content creators who know the ins and outs of X's and O, we got this. Okay? And I'm tired of it. I'm really tired of it. And all those people that I mentioned, you can guarantee the next time you see Reason on a panel with them, all those facts will be brought to them. And y'all have seen me. I've had Omar on the show. I've had Pupar on the show. I don't shy away. I don't sit on the fence when they're up here or when I'm up with them. And it's going to continue to be the same way. But to be honest with you, part of me has no interest because we're so unaligned right now. All right? The fans wanted to see it. I'd give it for the fans. But personally, I'm at a stage with this and where I'm at. How much do I really need them? Right? I was the first one to have Omar on YouTube. I was the first one to do a podcast with Omar. Okay? I was the first one. I was the first one to have a former Dolphin player on for a podcast. I've done a lot of firsts on this. Okay? And I've continued to evolve. I've proven myself. I don't need to do that anymore. So, you know what? Here's real talk reason right now. All right? I'm tired of it. I'm tired of them misleading you and misguiding all of you because you know what? If it wasn't for all of you, none of us would be here. None of the articles would be read. None of the publications would succeed. None of the YouTube channels would succeed. None of the videos would be watched. None of it. So when people lie to you, misguide you, or try to act like there's something they're not to get you to buy into their narratives, that's dishonest to me. And I will stand 10 toes down and defend against that stuff every single time. I've been like that since 2019, and I ain't going to stop. All right? So that's where I sit. That's where I sit right now. All right? So I do this all for y'all because I love all y'all. And if it wasn't for all of y'all, None of us. I don't care if you're the biggest journalist in South Florida covering the Dolphins or you're the smallest YouTuber covering the Dolphins. None of us would exist without any of y'all. So yeah, I take offense to it, and I take it personal when people lie to you, misguide you, and try to deceive you by acting like there's something they're not to get you to follow them. I take that personally, and I always will. Shout out to all of you, though. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new. I appreciate all y'all. Let's keep it going. Because they've tried to continue to lie to you guys about Tua's ability to throw outside the numbers. And I actually had a discussion with someone in a chat yesterday. And here you go. Look at this. Here it is. Okay, now, I want to tell you something about the 33rd team. The 33rd team, the reason why they're turning away and moving away from, like, NFL content, and they're becoming basically, if you look at what the 33rd team is starting to become, they fired all their writers and everything, and the 33rd team are going to become NFL consultants. They did a trial run with the New York Jets and their coaching and GM search, and now they're taking it on full time. And the reason why is the 33rd team have created proprietary analytics and statistics that, like, you know, I'm sure they're going to release them one day, but they're proprietary, kind of like grades with PFF and stuff like that. They've created their own analytical and their own statistical system at the 33rd team. That's proprietary. So one of the things that they've got going on right now is they posted an image. Now, people will tell you, Tua can't throw outside the numbers. Tua doesn't have the arm to throw outside the numbers. Tua can't do this. Tua can't. Okay, check this out. So, the best quarterbacks throwing to each part of the field based on EPA per dropback, 2024 regular season plus postseason. Look to the left and look to the right. Don't ever let someone tell you Tua can't throw outside the numbers. From the 20 to 30 yard range on the left side, he has the highest EPA per dropback last year. From the line of scrimmage to the 10-yard line, the highest EPA per dropback last year. Surprisingly, he didn't make middle of the field because that's where he thrives. So when someone tells you Tua can't make every NFL throw, Tua can't throw outside the numbers, you remember this. You remember this. That he literally led in analytical categories outside the numbers on both sides of the field. So, I'm telling you, man, that offensive line stays healthy, the run game will get going. Tua will get comfortable in that pocket. And we're going to be back to cooking, baby. That offensive line needs to stay healthy, though. The depth between Keon Smith, Eichenberg, and Borum, I don't think it's something you want to see anytime soon. And again, remember, he leads an EPA per dropback on those each side of the field like that, throwing at like a 2.2 second rate. All right? He's not getting 3 seconds like some of these guys. He's getting 2.2. So, oh man, here you go. Here you go. I'll tell you where Josh Allen is, eh? You know? Josh Allen is in as many of those categories, leading as many of those categories as the Bills have Super Bowls. That's where he is. He's at home trying to count the Super Bowls right now. Oh, hilarious. But shout out to Joe Burrow, man. That kid's special. That kid's special, man. For real. That kid is special. That's where Josh Allen is, all right? And then finally here, I just wanted to show you guys this, man. College leaves, but the money never stops. The nil reality doesn't end when a college player comes in the NFL. Plenty of pro players make extra money through endorsement deals. Dolphins rookie quarterback Quinn Ewers has gotten undoubtedly the biggest payday for any 7th-round draft pick in his first season. Ewers announced on Friday that he signed an exclusive autograph trading card deal with Panini. Per source with knowledge of the arrangement, it's a $3 million deal, which is not too shabby given that his slotted 4-year contract with the Dolphins as the 231st pick pays out about $4.3 million over 4 years. So, and wow, that's crazy. So this man just got a $3 million trading card deal. Shout out to Quinn Ewers, brother. Oh my God. Go take Zach Wilson's job. Oh man, I got 3 million reasons why you should try. That's hilarious. All right, guys, do me the favor. Smash the like button. Subscribe if you are new. I wanted to get that stuff off my chest. I also wanted to give a shout out and give a quick, RIP and fill all y'all in who have been watching for a long time about our friend Todd. Gonna miss him, man. Gonna miss him. Just know that I love each and every one of you. I appreciate each and every one of you and the time we have together. You just never know when it's gonna end. So I love all y'all. You guys drive me to be the best Dolphins content creator possible. And thank you for driving me to be better. All right? And you're going to see better when you see what me and Dougley got coming with the starting lineup, baby. I love it. All right. Fins up. Love all y'all. I'll see you on the next one. Have a fantastic rest of